What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Now you've joined me in a 2008 Fiat Punto 1.2 65 horsepower. Okay, so if you watch my previous video, you'll know what I'm trying to achieve here. So this car has been sat for the past 3 years. It hasn't moved, it hasn't even been started. So it's going to need quite a bit of work done to it before it goes for its MOT and is roadworthy again. Now in this video, the things that I want to get done are, I want to completely empty the fuel tank of petrol, because if you're not aware, petrol or gasoline, whatever you want to call it, once it's been, you know, out of a sealed container, only really lasts a few months, and this has been sat for like the best part of 3 years. So it's definitely going to be bad. It might even start gumming up, you know, like becoming a solid and blocking some fuel pipes and whatever else. So we're gonna have to you know, try and get over them hurdles when they arise. But yeah, the fuel tank definitely needs draining. I don't really know the whole you know, science behind what happens to petrol, how it degrades over time. Feel free to do your own research, but I just know that it's not good to have at least 3-year-old petrol going through your fuel system. So we're going to try and drain that out. I have got a hand pump, so that's going to be fun, draining the best part of like half a tank of petrol out. And I also want to try and get done today the battery. I want to get the new battery fixed up, which I'll show you that right now. So here it is, just down here. It's only a you know, it's only a fairly cheap one, but it should do the job. It's like got a year's warranty and whatever else. Let's just pop the bonnet. Now, I mentioned in the last video that is the original battery, and you can actually see this is actually slightly bigger than that one over there, but I think this one is 360 amps. Let's go and have a look what size this is. This is 320 amps. So not ideal, you know. I'm sure it should still be fine. It's still going to start fine. The only thing is it's not going to like last as long on like the auxiliaries, like the radio and things like that. So obviously, you know, my sister has just got to make sure she don't leave the power on, leave the electronics on, you know, when the car's not started. But yeah, I want to get the battery in today. I want to get all the fuel drained and possibly an oil change. I don't know. If not, we'll have to leave that for another video. But yeah, let's start getting the fuel drained anyway. I haven't done this before, so it's definitely going to be a first for me, and we'll see how it goes. We've got a huge fuel tank somewhere. I think that's in the back of my car, so I'm going to get that and also get the pump as well. Okay then, so this is the pump that I'm going to be using. It's very simple. This end's going to suck the fuel up, that end's going to shoot the fuel out. Simple. It's just going to be a hand pump like that. It's going to create a vacuum, it's going to suck it up, and it's going to shoot it out the other end. Now, I did ideally want to buy an electric pump. That'd make my life so much easier, it'd be obviously so much quicker, and you'd get like a more consistent flow. But when having a look, I actually struggled to find one that was suitable for pumping petrol. You can buy one that pumps oil and diesel, but not for petrol. And that made me think it's pretty obvious actually why it's not, because an electric pump with something as flammable as petrol, it's probably not the best idea. If you get a spark from that electric pump, boom, you know what I mean? Like oil and diesel is not very flammable, so that'll obviously be suitable. But you know, it is what it is. We've got this hand pump, so we're going to make the most of it. I hope that it doesn't have like an anti-cipher thing in the filler neck, because that'll just make things like 10 times harder, but I guess we'll find out, won't we? Yeah. Oh, that looks a lot more complex than what I was hoping for. Okay, so just going to focus. That is what we're working with in there. It's not just a straight hole to the fuel tank. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. Is that the bottom? Surely that can't be the bottom. Possibly. If there's only one way to find out. Okay then, so that didn't go to plan. Now, I put the pipe in and yeah, it ended up just getting kinked, and it got to a certain point there, it just got stuck, and I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Then it got stuck and I almost like struggled to pull it out, to like push a screwdriver through to open one of the flaps, I guess. But yeah, I didn't make it down to the fuel tank, touched the end of the hose and it wasn't even wet. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to think of something else. Maybe I guess just access the fuel tank under the seats. I don't know, I'll have to see how the seats come out, but yeah, it's not going to plan so far. Okay, so I'm inside now, I'm on the back seats now. Typically, now I haven't done any research, I probably should to be honest, but usually you can access the fuel tank from under the back seats. So that's what we're going to try and do. Now usually seats actually just lift up, but these have got some attachments on the seats, so I've got to take those bolts out along there, and then hopefully it should just lift up and we can see if we have access to the fuel tank or not. But yeah, let's get these rear seats removed. Okay, so a quick tip for anyone who is trying to get a Torx bolt out. Always, you know, if you're trying to figure out which size the bolt is, which side torque bit you need, always start larger. You know, like I know now that this the Torx bit that I need for these bolts is a T40, a Torx 40. Now I tried like T50, then T45, then I got to T40. Now if I was to try like a T35 first, now that would actually fit and it would seem like pretty snug, but what would happen is when I go to undo the bolt, I could potentially round it off, and I've done that like so many times in the past. So when you're trying to figure out which size bolt it is, specifically a Torx bolt, always start larger, and you know, don't try and just get it out with the smaller one, because you'll end up just rounding the bolt and then you'll need to try and find another one. So let's get these out now. Oh, got an impact wrench as well, which should be a lifesaver when it comes to this job. Let's do it. Okay, so with those three bolts out, hopefully these should lift out in some fashion. I need two hands for this. Any money down here? Ah, 5p. That's all part of the job. Right, so as I suspected, we have access to the fuel tank, hopefully. Hopefully you just flick that off and then there should be some nuts to undo and we can actually access the fuel pump and the fuel tank. There we go. It's a good job I bought this blue roll around because I knew it was going to come in handy. Probably a good idea to wear gloves now, unless you want petrol all over your hands, that is. So there is two connections. So one where the fuel is going to go to the rest of the car away from the pump. And that's just that connector there. And looks like an electrical connector, which is always fun trying to figure out how they work. Always fun. Ah, maybe that. Yeah, was it? Oh, no, it came off now anyway. There we go. Put that back on. These lugs off, so gotta be careful. Keep going, lad. Well, we're definitely turning it anyway. So not loose enough to turn by hand. Ah. There we go. Okay, so you can see that obviously I've got the retaining ring off and the fuel pump will lift up now, but as you can see down there, there's a lot of fuel, so I think I'm going to drain what fuel I can, what's actually inside the pump, and why is it so dark? And then I will proceed in taking the pump out if I can. I don't even know if you can remove it like simply. But yeah, we're going to drain as much fuel as we can, put that into that disposable, not disposable bottle, but the bottle that I'm going to put the fuel in, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so we have the fuel pump out, and that is down there, still full of petrol though, but we now have access to the tank, and you can see my reflection, so should be simple to pump that out of there now. But first I need to get the fuel out of there. Okay, so we managed to get the fuel pump out. That's where that is, and this is the setup we got at the moment. So just laid some kitchen roll just round the tank. Obviously I know someone's going to spill, but yeah, it's just a case of putting one of those hoses into the tank. You just got to stay in that draining bottle there and then just pump away. Okay then, so a little update. This thing is, I'd say, nearly full, and there's not a whole lot left of petrol. left in there now. You can kind of see that the hose is like scraping off the bottom. Now, with there being a little bit left, it's kind of making it hard to pump now, because depending on which direction the hose is pointing, like sometimes it's just sucking air, sometimes it's sucking petrol. It would be ideal if I could have someone to hold the hose directly into the petrol, but yeah, we're gonna have to make use of what we've got. I'm not too sure what shape the tank is as well, because there might be some levels higher than others, but I would have thought where the pump is, that would be the lowest level, because that would make sense, obviously, because you know the fuel pump's got to take the fuel from the bottom of the tank, right? So yeah, I'm hoping that this is the last little bit left now, so let's get it up. Right then, so I am convinced that that is 99.9% of the petrol out of the tank. Now, if you can see, there's like a, you know, you can even see the outlines of the ridges of where the fuel pump sits, but there's probably like, I'd say maybe 100 milliliters in there now, if that. So that should be good to go. I actually put my hand in the tank with like some paper roll and just felt around, and there wasn't like any more fuel in there apart from that little puddle you can see in there, which is honestly not going to make much difference at all. Now there will be some fuel obviously in the fuel line, which should lead all the way to the engine, obviously, which I'm led to believe is to that connection right there. So in theory, if I put the fuel pump and everything back in and put some new fuel in, I should be able to, oh, and obviously put the new battery in, I should be able to just have the ignition on, and that should prime the pump. That should send some fuel to the front of the car. And if I disconnect where that connection goes in, the fuel line, then I should be able to drain it from there. But we'll get the fuel pump back in, see if we can do all that, and then we'll try and fit the new battery. I guess that's in. Right. So then, I'm guessing that's in. I mean, obviously it's that connection's got to go there, and that's got to go back on there. So it's got like a spring to it. I'm guessing that's what that that kind of spring little connection was on it. So I guess we'll just send it and hope for the best. In. That's about it, isn't it? Now I'm just gonna probably clean that. Down there, put that in there, and I should probably tighten that up a little bit more, as you know, was going to keep going around for a few more like quarter turns, I think, but I'm going to leave it as it is until we get the car started, because obviously if turns out that, you know, the fuel pump now don't work. I'm gonna have to take it all off again anyway. So before I forget as well, I've actually connected up the fuel inlet pipe, and that's now reverting to there instead of going to the fuel rail and the injectors. It's just the strangest battery design that I've ever seen. There's so many connections going on it. Normally it's just a round connector onto the, you know, onto the negative and the positive, but yeah, got all these. Right, let's get it out. Old battery out, stretch the new one and put it in its place. There's like this strap thing that goes over the top of it as well to secure it even more, so I guess I should probably put that back on. Yeah, thread it right around the right way. Probably a good idea to remove these as well, otherwise you're not really going to get a connection, are you? Alright, just got to put all this back now. It's probably going to be the first time in like 3 years it's had any kind of power. I guess I should put this strap on first. Now I'm not going to attempt to clean all of this grease off these connections, but I'm just going to make sure the actual part that makes contact with the terminals is fairly clean and grease free, because like I said, there's all this grease on it. Okay, so before I actually turn the ignition on, it's probably a good idea to put some fuel in the fuel tank. Otherwise, with like next to no fuel in the tank, it's just going to put a lot of strain on the fuel pump. So got like about 5 or 6 litres here, and this is actually Shell V power, which is like 99 octane, so it's got like next to no ethanol in, so should be good. Let's fill this up and see if we can get this ignition. Had to use a screwdriver because the flap inside the filler neck kept closing, it just kept running out, so yeah, I had to use a screwdriver to keep it open. But fueled up now, I guess the only thing left to do is switch the ignition on, if that even, you know, if the battery even works. Okay, so I don't know if, I mean, because I've got a diesel, and whenever you turn the key, when you turn the ignition on, it sends fuel from the fuel pump to the injectors. Now I'm a little bit stuck. I thought it was going to go to that pipe, and instead of obviously going to the fuel rail, just go into that bottle there. But yeah, kind of out of all ideas, so I guess we're going to have to start up the engine, and yeah, there's going to be like a few drops of old fuel left in the pipe still, but it shouldn't be the end of the world. So yeah, let's get that pipe connected up, and I think we should be ready to attempt to start it. Okay, so I know I did crank it over a few times earlier on. Now I'm actually just going to put some oil in the oil filler cap, because I want to make sure there's at least some fresh oil at the top, and then I think we're going to be ready to attempt to start it up. Okay, so I'm actually going to end this video here. I'm not going to start it on this video, it's been way too long as it is. So I'm going to put the first start, or the first attempt to start the engine, on the next video, and in that one I should be doing the oil change or filter change and maybe a couple of other things as well. But I just want to thank you guys for watching this video. Please give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in that next video. Peace!